Welcome to the Naperville Mayoral Candidates Forum. My name is Tammy Caltageroni. This forum is a nonpartisan event and is meant to educate voters about the important issues of the environment and sustainability. It is co-sponsored by NEST, Naperville Environment Sustainability Task Force, CCL, Citizens Climate Lobby, and First Congregational Church, Naperville. A couple of quick housekeeping items. I would ask that you please silence your phones. Additionally, to the audience right is a table with campaign materials and refreshments. Bathrooms are located down the hallway to the left, and a hallway just to the far left of the building is also a small restaurant. Index cards are available to submit questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and a volunteer will bring you a card. This forum will use the format and rules developed by the League of Women Voters. I'm a trained league moderator and live in Batavia. I'm unable to vote in this election. So Naperville's April 4th election is very exciting. There are 3 candidates for mayor who will serve a 4-year term. All candidates were contacted 3 times for forum participation. As you can see, chairs are provided for each candidate. An empty chair indicates a candidate decided not to attend. Tonight's format includes opening statements, prepared questions, questions from the audience, and a lightning round of yes and no statements requiring a yes or no response. Reminder, again, if you would like to submit a question, please raise your hand for a card. Equal time is given to all candidates to answer each question. The timer will stand when time is up. Candidates will be allowed to finish their sentence, but if they continue, I will stop them. Each candidate, I'm not going to tackle them. I'm just going to stop them. Each candidate will present an opening statement in turn, proceeding from our left to the right. After the opening statements, we will rotate candidates, so each will be the first to answer a question. Candidates, please speak into the microphone so that those watching at home can hear you clearly. So now on to the reason why we're here. You want to hear what the candidates have to say. Candidate Worley, would you please begin with an opening statement, followed by Candidate White.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Scott Worley, and I'm running for mayor, and appreciate the citizens for being here tonight and NEST for organizing this forum. I decided to run for mayor because I believe we need members on the city council who know how to get things done and have a track record of success. I'm not a politician, I'm a doer. There's a lot of talk about sustainability, environmental stewardship, and conserving resources. I have the executive experience and actually implement change. For decades, my business has been a leader in resilient and sustainable construction technology. We embrace sustainability because it's good for the environment, economy, and our long-term business growth, and we challenge our customers to be better. We've invested over $6 million in solar technology to power our business, and we operate one of the largest 1.5 megawatt community solar facilities in the area. We deploy best-in-class recycling and lean manufacturing methods to eliminate waste. My commitment to environmental stewardship extends to my personal choices in life. I drive an electric vehicle and also own a PHEV. I use leading-edge construction methods to construct my own home to reduce waste, preserve trees, and deploy other technologies to save on electricity, natural gas, and water. If we want our next mayor to work with businesses to understand the economic and environmental benefits of switching to zero-carbon renewable electricity, you can elect somebody who's done it and can explain the benefits and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate White.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here. I know it's a Monday and you're out here listening to us, so I greatly appreciate it. Hi, my name is Benny White, and I want to be your mayor, and I humbly ask for your support and your vote on April 4th. You know, Robert Swan said the greatest threat to the planet is the fear that someone else is actually going to save it. We're in this together, everyone. Sustainability is a collective measure. As your mayor, I promise that I will look through every decision with a sustainability lens. I think it's important that we do that. And when we talk about sustainability, we're not just talking about the environment. It involves everything. Think about our seniors. Our seniors at some point can't get around. How do we sustain them? By the way, they're our fastest growing demographic. How about housing choices? We need to have, if we want to have a good community, we need to have housing where everyone has an opportunity. We talk about our great police officers and firefighters and teachers. Where do they live? Economic development is a sustainability thing. We've got to be able to bring in businesses in order to sustain this community. And diversity, equity, inclusion. We need to be able to include everyone here in our community. I really appreciate you all being here. I look forward to the questions, and let's get it going.
Thank you. Question number 1. What specific environmental and climate change threats to Naperville concern you the most? How do these threats impact the most vulnerable? And what can Naperville do to mitigate those impacts? Candidate White.
May I make sure we have 2 minutes?
90 seconds. I stand corrected. 2 minutes.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
Just had to ask. I thought it was a quick 2 minutes on my own. Well, anyway, absolutely. I will tell you this. Probably the biggest threat to us in Naperville is the climate change. I will just tell you that straight up. We have seen that. We've experienced it here in the city of Naperville. Since I've lived here, the flooding that takes place, especially in this particular area here, has been quite bad. All right, and we know that's part of the climate change. We've had tornadoes that we've had to deal with here, especially over at Branchview, over by Cinnamon Creek and so on. 2 years after the tornado, you still have challenges up there. I actually walked up there and spoke to some of the residents, and as I was talking to the homeowner, my wife was with me, and she walked around and just picked up all kind of glass that was still in the yard a year after they actually had the tornado. They cannot even allow their kids to go out there and play. They can't let the dogs go out. So climate change is real for us. We need to be thinking about, for the next time this may happen, what are we going to do from a disaster relief standpoint? A lot of those residents, although they were able to have insurance, but the insurance did not cover their yards. So we may need to think about ways that we can have out there that will help relieve the pressure off of them. I will also tell you that we've got to look at the bigger picture here when it comes to coal burning. We are part of an organization called IMEA, which is a coal, well, 70% of the electricity that they produce is produced by coal, and it's not good for our environment. We've got to use the leverage that we have here in this organization, which we are the biggest owner of it, and use that to help influence change within the organization. The other piece I will tell you is going to be education. You've got to be able to educate our public when it comes to public service announcements and letting them know what other available options are available for them when it comes to energy sources and so on. Solar is big. We have opportunities to do that. In fact, we've only used about 1% of what we've been authorized to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley.
First, at a 30,000-foot level, global level, climate change is a problem that affects us all around the world. We can certainly play our part in helping reverse that trend. There is low-hanging fruit that we as a community can implement, and we can lead by example and promote recycling and more sustainable solutions. For decades, Naperville has proudly led as a nationally recognized Tree City USA community. Throughout this time and beyond, the city's also maintained its model land donation program in the Naperville Park District, which requires development to contribute parkland. I will continue to support that partnership. And there are countless opportunities for the city to experiment, explore, and implement the biodiversity throughout Naperville. Additionally, there are potential maintenance savings to be had to help these projects pay for themselves beyond the environmental benefits. I think what concerns me the most locally, though, is the rise in severe storm weather, a result of climate and environmental change. We've had 3 tornadoes hit our community in the last 2 years. With the rise in serious storm weather and a long storm season, we face the risk of increased power outages, increased flooding, and increased damage. and that's not good for our residents. I'd like to see the city focused on shoring up existing infrastructure so that we can be better prepared for future storms. Mitigation should be the city's driving principle that comes after every storm event. We can talk about the IMEA contract as well, because I think that can be a part of the local solution, but I know we'll be talking about that in our next question. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley, you'll lead this one. Naperville is currently contracted through 2035 to get our electricity from a supplier utilizing mostly coal power plants. As part of this agreement, Naperville also has an ownership stake in these power plants. This is Naperville's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. What practical actions can be taken to help transition Naperville from coal to clean energy sources?
I bring the same disciplined managerial approach and vision I've used in my own business, banks and area nonprofits to this issue. The job of the mayor and city council is to set the vision and challenge our staff to come up with responsible alternatives that are price and performance competitive. Our city's municipal utilities are actually very large, capital-intense corporations with a very limited customer base. We have to have leadership that knows how to run these businesses and ensure they are responsibly managing their capital expenditures in daily operations. Management of either utility, or mismanagement rather, of either utility could have disastrous financial impact on our residents and our city. Power plants aren't built overnight. We should begin planning now for a responsible transition with our electric utility, because relying on a coal-fueled power plant is simply not a long-term solution for Naperville. I'm excited about the prospect of new emerging technologies and strongly believe that Naperville, which has a history of being at the forefront of innovation, can and should take the lead exploring these options. I have the executive experience to add substantial value to the council as they begin to deal with this issue. And I look forward to working with city staff, NEST, and other stakeholders to do what's right for all of our residents and set us up on a long-term, sustainable path. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate White.
And thank you for the question. You know, we have to kind of look back at kind of how we got here. Back in the mid to late 90s, when Naperville was dependent on other sources for its electricity, they were paying a pretty decent price. So they decided to get involved with this IMEA, which at the time seemed like a pretty good idea because it kept our prices low. It was very good for the residents. At that time, coal was probably the popular way of creating electricity. But now fast forward to where we are right now, we understand that it is not good for our environment and we need to make some changes. Currently at the city right now, we are looking into this particular situation. I can tell you that we have gone out and we are in the process of hiring a consultant that will come in and give us some options and alternatives to what we can do. We need to, first of all, make sure we know what our role is as a city council, because we're not environmental experts. I am not an environmental expert, but I'm a listener. Again, I've been leading my entire career in the Army, and since I've been retired as well, been in leadership roles, so I understand the importance of surrounding yourself with good people. And we have a lot of great people at our city government. So with that in mind, the consultants will come back, give us the options and alternatives as far as what we'll be able to do. I will tell you as well, as I said in my opening, we need to understand that we are the largest owner of that IMEA. All right, and by the way, there's one of their coal plants down there called Prairie State, which produces 50% by itself. It's a huge, huge burden. It's not good for the environment. It's all being burned down in southern Illinois. It's not being burned here. So we've got to be looking out for other members of our state to ensure that they're getting the things that they're doing. We're not polluting their particular air just so we can have electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate White, this question will be answered first by you. As the most visible city leader in Naperville, you'll play a key role in helping schools, the Park District, businesses, citizens, nonprofits, and city management work together to address the threats and impacts of climate change. What what kinds of things will you say and do as a leader to help them with that?
Thank you again. As the mayor, you have to understand it. I'll be your ambassador. I'm the ambassador for this community. We have an entire city council, 8 other individuals, but people are going to be looking up to the mayor to make decisions. I've been making decisions my whole career, life and death type of decisions, quite frankly, being an officer in the Army. But those are the types of things that need to take place. We need to bring in our city council, make sure they understand what we need to do, what needs to be accomplished, I should say. And also we need to take a look at educating our kids. So as the mayor, I want to continue to go talk to our Nest folks, talk to our folks at our schools and school administrators, and let them know that the kids are the ones, if we get hold of them, they're the ones that are going to come back and say, Mom, Dad, look what I learned at school today. And start, I think we've all probably been here. Dad, why are you throwing away that carton? They know, all right? And that's where we start, I think, the big part of it. The other part I would tell you is public service announcements. A lot of this is we all as residents don't quite understand what we are supposed to do. We might take things and throw them in the recycle bin, and we don't do it the right way. I think it's important that we've got to educate each other on how to do this. We just kind of make the assumption that everyone knows what sustainability is and how to do their recycling and so on. And at the end of the day, we want to have healthier buildings. Our buildings need to be efficient when it comes to energy. And not just from an energy standpoint, which, by the way, it's one of the largest producers of carbon, is what happens out of these buildings here. But what about the health of the building itself? Can we bring in folks who actually know how to go through and ensure that the building is healthy for people to be in? Okay? That's a sustainability issue in itself, because when you have folks going to work and they're getting sick because the building's not healthy, then all of a sudden they can't work and your business starts to suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate White. Candidate Worley?
I believe the city of Naperville can be the most effective by implementing the changes it desires other organizations to take. And the office of the mayor plays an important role in setting the tone, culture, and the agenda of the city. I have a proven track record of environmental stewardship in my own businesses and encourage those practices in the corporations, banks, and nonprofits that I help lead. As a business owner who's actually invested millions of dollars to curb carbon emissions, I offer a unique perspective unlike other candidates. We've had great successes, and then at the same time we've had some tough lessons along the way. It hasn't always been perfect when we've implemented changes. I know how to ask the right questions and set the right policies and build consensus on achieving action plans. I believe being a good steward of the environment is actually good economics, and will encourage the city council, city staff, and community at large to adopt proactive policies. For the foreseeable future, the city must practice what it preaches. Naperville city government can be a leader in the community on sustainability and serve as a model for area business owners, our schools, and our residents.
Thank you. I would like to remind you, if you have questions, please raise your hand to have a card brought to you and submitted. Question number 4. Going to you, Candidate Worley, first. What waste reduction would you support? For example, would you support modest plastic bag fee as a way to fund further sustainability efforts, as has been done in other cities?
You know, I believe the most important job of the mayor of Naperville is to listen to his residents. I'll always be there and have an open door to anyone who has important issues they feel are affecting our community. And it's important that every constituent or group is respected through this process. While I can't promise that everyone will agree with my position on every item, I believe in showing respect throughout all the processes. I recognize that as the mayor, there are also opportunities to lead conversations and allow community organizations and groups like this to have a voice through unofficial government actions. For instance, if there were better ways to support waste reduction, recycling, and composting that could be shared with the community, I would look for ways to facilitate outreach to the community by partnering with expert groups like Nest. Outreach like this simply takes the will and commitment of public officials to use their roles to connect and educate our community. Fundamentally, I believe in a carrot versus a stick approach to engage our residents and our business, and to help them save money and our planet. We can achieve more through educational outreach and encouragement than by passing fee assessments or ordinances regulating activities within a family's personal residence.
Thank you. Candidate White?
Thank you for the question. When it comes down to looking at the question itself and it's talking about plastic bag fee, it's something we can consider. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the right answer or not, but the key again is we start talking to our folks from our Nest organization, which we established while I was on the city council, and they're out doing great and wonderful things. But we have to understand what are we looking like right now, growing up in Naperville and across the country. Amazon is huge, right? How many folks are ordering stuff online and it's being brought to you and so on? That's great. It saves us from going to the stores and so on. But think about all the packaging that's associated with that. What are we doing with that? It's adding to that part of the process. So I think we need to be looking at things like along those measures as well. Think about buying in bulk instead of individual. It's less packaging when you just buy it in bulk. Those are things I think from a waste reduction that we can do. Think about when you go to the store, if you go to Aldi, for example, and you better bring your own stuff with you because they're not going to give you plastic bags. Go there with your cloth bag, and that's great for the environment. We're not investing in the plastic bags and using those to waste and pollute our environment. You know what? The other thing is what we can do is we can encourage our residents to grow their own food. You know, how about that? Remember when you were young, you used to have your own garden, and some of us may have a garden right now. I think that's super important. As you grow your own food, you automatically cut away from all the different plastics that come along with it. There's an organization called Our Legacy Initiative, and that's what they do. They actually not only grow the food, they teach you how to do it. And they provide beds for people to grow their gardens and so on in there. I'm on the board of an organization which I think most of you have heard of, Boats and Fishes. We do very similar stuff. We'll take grocery stores will have more food than what they can use. We'll provide it for loaves and fishes instead of throwing it away. And then finally, composting would be extremely important to put those live things back into the ground so that they can nourish the soil. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will begin with you, Candidate White. The health of Naperville's residents depend on having clean air to breathe, safe drinking water, and access to healthy outdoor activities. How can city government ensure Naperville remains a healthy place to live?
Well, I think what we can do is we can do things that encourage people to do other things than just drive their vehicle. So I think we need to assess our community, for example, to see if there's a big demand or larger demand for public transportation. Right, one bus versus 10 cars on the road might be beneficial for us. I think the other thing is to look at not only just buses, but I've been in communities where they have e-buses now, electrical buses that go out and do this. It's much less stress on our environment. The other thing, e-bikes and just regular bicycles. Encourage that, especially in the summertime. I've lived overseas. I lived in Germany for 3 years. And when you live over in Europe, things are just a little bit different as far as how they get around and so on. And you will see everyone out on a bicycle, and that's how they get around. That's something I know that we can do here as well. That also means we need to open up more bicycle lanes. We need to have more connectivity between the south and the eastern parts the south and the north parts of Naperville to connect them, so we're not having to cross dangerous and busy, dangerous streets. The other part I would tell you is this. There's an organization called NIMS, and I'm not sure if we may get to this later on, but we need to be able to be ready to respond to the next crisis that might take place, similar to what happened in Ohio. What are we going to do if that happens in Naperville? Are we prepared for that? And there's a lot that goes into it. We have systems in place. I'm afraid I don't think it's been exercised from the bottom to the top, where it has our government leaders as well as our fire department, as well as our police department and everyone else to ensure that whatever we have in place has been validated and will work in case of an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley?
The number one priority for the city's government is to protect its residents. Protection from crime, protection from harmful contaminants in its drinking water. The good news is that Naperville is ranked as one of the best places to live in the country, and that isn't by accident. Naperville has been a leader in finding innovative solutions to new emerging problems and ensuring it provides world-class service to its residents. Going back to the 1970s, NARC, the Naperville Area Recycling Center, was created, making Naperville a leader in recycling practices. And we were at the forefront of the recycling movement, and one of the first to implement curbside pickup. Now recycling is commonplace around the country. We were truly leaders. In my 29 years in the Liquor Commission, when violent crime and disorderly conduct was on the rise in downtown Naperville, we worked with the business community on updating regulations. We reduced bad behaviors and reduced crime and prevented tragedies from occurring. And those solutions have been replicated around the country. Naperville has been and should continue to be a nationwide leader in finding solutions and setting a great example. My track record demonstrates that I care about being a good steward of financial resources and the environment, and I will bring that perspective to the mayor.
Thank you, candidates. For this next round, we have questions from our audience. You will have 2 minutes to respond. First question. Naperville continues to grow in a car-centric fashion. Housing developments are clustered. Retail is clustered. Businesses are clustered. Please outline a vision in which we can live in Naperville without a car, or at least with fewer cars per family. Right now, the privilege of being able to live without a car is reserved for the well-placed few. Each car needs 35 spaces. I'm sorry, 3 to 5 spaces. Sorry. That sounded a lot. That includes for home, travel, and destinations. So sorry. Candidate White.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. Car-centric fashion. So we want to kind of reduce the use of cars, and I would think gasoline types of cars, just like Mr. Worley. I also have an electric vehicle, which allows me to be environmentally, conscious as far as what I'm doing. So I think the increase on electric vehicles, I think, would be a big part of that. Although it doesn't necessarily reduce the number of cars, but it does allow us to have cleaner cars out on the road. Naperville, from my understanding, might be the leading city in Illinois when you look at a per capita standpoint that has electric vehicles in there. So I think that becomes extremely important. We, as I said before, encouragement of public transportation as well as bicycles and e-bikes. E-bikes are become very, very popular now, and we can have those on the trails. I think they go up to about 22 miles an hour or so. I think that's a great alternative to help reduce the number of vehicles that are on the road. So that would be my suggestion of what we can look at to kind of help address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley.
Now, back in the early 90s, I started my job as a police officer with our Park District and was the person who started our bike patrol program for police officers in Naperville. And what we found in that experiment was that we could travel to a lot of places pretty efficiently, pretty effectively, and without the use of a car. And over the decades that we've implemented that program, we found that it is a very efficient and effective way to get around town, especially during high traffic times and at times where sometimes we can get through areas that might not necessarily facilitate the ability to get an emergency vehicle in, like an accident or other types of incidents. In recent years, we've transitioned to e-bikes and other micro-mobility devices are out there. And I think as the world changes, and Naperville is now home to, I believe, 3 or 4 e-bike stores, there is great adaptation and excitement about this new technology. It's awesome stuff. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's something that we can get people behind and motivated to do, is getting people outside and enjoying our trails at a much higher level. The only challenge that we've got is to make sure that they travel at a kind speed for the other people who happen to be on those bike paths. But I think those are the future options. As I travel to cities around the country, you see the scooters and all these different things that you can rent by the hour or by the minute. And yes, even you'll see me on a scooter down in Memphis, Tennessee when I visit my daughter. So I'm not recommending we do the scooter programs here, but for individual ownership of these devices, I think it is the future, and it's pretty exciting to see.
Thank you. Next question. The American Rescue Plan allows for funds to be used for infrastructure, climate action, stormwater management, and the like. How should Naperville utilize ARPA funds? Candidate Worley?
Well, I know we've got money that's coming and money that's been allocated for the city. I would rely actually on our city staff to give us some good guidance on where they think we are hurting the most. And that, depending on who you ask, can be a varied response, right? So if you ask somebody in the electric department, he's got lots of ideas. Somebody in the water department, he's got lots of ideas. But I do know the city has infrastructure that is failing, and we need to get those things repaired. We have water mains that are in desperate need of repair. We still have some leaded lines out there, believe it or not, that need to get resolved. Those things are extremely important from a health safety standpoint to our residents. And in my opinion, that's where those priorities should be allocated. The city's got $150 million of capital improvement plans down the road here. We've got to reduce our phosphorus emissions according to a state mandate. That is a moving target. They keep getting stricter on what the mandate is, and it's going to cost more money down the road. We might need to use some of those funds to add to the funds that will be needed for that project. Our sewer water, our wastewater treatment plant, rather, also has to go through millions of dollars in updates, some of the biggest expenses in the city's history. So we don't know exactly what these things are going to cost. We have some good ideas, but with inflationary rates and the difficulty in buying equipment and labor escalations, we've got to be pretty cautious where we allocate our funds right now, but I would prioritize them from those things that are absolute life safety issues, and those failing water mains and lead pipes are things that absolutely would be number one on my list.
Thank you. Candidate White?
Thank you again for the question. I'll tell you, the first thing I would do would be to go over to that tornado area that I mentioned earlier and get those situations fixed. Now, the good thing about what's happened over in Ranchview is that a lot of our state reps, or our state rep for that particular area, and some of the residents have to call out Christy Kennedy. She's been a lifesaver over there. She's brought this information forward, and it's gotten to the point now where we've been allocated $1 million just for the Ranchview area. So that's a great thing. Trust me on that one. However, they're still not quite there. They're going to probably need a few more, maybe about $400,000 to $500,000 to make them whole. We have $13.3 million into that ARPA fund, so that's just a small pinch that would definitely go a long way toward helping them out. I think the rest of that money, however, I think would be great for infrastructure. Our roads need the help. I will tell you, we're looking at a potential parking deck over at the library. We probably need to do a little more analysis to determine if we could build that. But we have money that's set aside for parking, and with the ARPA funds, we can almost build that without having to charge the community anything. So that's something that we should consider. I think the other big piece we definitely need to consider are these new police radios that have just come out that they've been mandated to have. And these are important because our police officers do a lot of mutual support. They may help out Bolingbrook, they may help out Aurora. They come over here. They all need to be able to talk to each other and speak the same language. So they need to have those radios. Those radios are about $20 million.
years.
Over a 5-year period. Yeah, a radio. So you think of the encryptions and all those types of things that go into a radio. I kind of get that from my experience in the Army of having encrypted type of stuff. It makes it expensive. So it's something that we definitely need to take a look at. I think it would be good use of the funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Last week, Nittany City Council candidates cited NEST as their resource for all sustainable initiatives. We'd like to know how, as mayor, you will hold the city manager, sustainability manager, and city staff accountable for action on environment initiatives. Candidate White.
Yes, I was so excited about our ability to create, NEST, and not only create NEST, because it used to just be more of a task force, but they're doing great work, and we've actually hired 2 individuals who are responsible for all the initiatives that we're doing in that regard. What we will do is we talk specifically to the city manager. That's who we hire as the city council and the mayor, whereas the city manager actually hires everyone else on his or her staff, although we are all being briefed by those individuals. So as we go through budget cycles, as we listen to all the folks who are out in this room and in our community, they are the ones who are providing us information as far as what the needs are of the community. Yes, we have the experts who are there who know what a lot of those needs are as well, but I think it's important that we have community engagement that allows us to listen to our community and then pass that on to our staff, ask the questions that the community is asking us, and if there are certain things that need to get done based off of the research we've done and the information we're getting from you all, then that's how I would hold them accountable to ensure that they're getting the things done that we're asking them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley.
NEST has produced some amazing documents and goals for our city, and I think this new city council, under the leadership of a new mayor, has a real opportunity to meet with all of the stakeholders, NEST, our city manager, our sustainability coordinators, and really develop some goals that our city can start achieving year by year in the hopes of having real change for our community in the decades to come. Without goals, we're kind of freewheeling it, and that doesn't work in my business. I always push my folks beyond what we think we can do and strive to get to where we want to be. And if we're going to really make effective change in our community, we've got to make those stretch goals. And if we get halfway there, well, we've accomplished something. So I think using the NEST documents as a guideline, the practicality of our sustainability managers and our city staff accountants and everybody the city says we can potentially achieve on a financial front, and then hopefully being able to pull our council together and get them on the same page, we can come up with some great plans for the future of our city.
Thank you. Next question. How would you encourage more businesses to install solar energy? Rules seem to disincentivize adoption of self-supplied energy for businesses. Candidate Worley.
Well, this is my favorite topic. I've been there and I've done that, and it has not been that easy. It's a really exciting opportunity for Naperville to promote solar to our businesses, but it's not very appealing right now because we have this rate structure for commercial customers that's very different from our residential customers. Our residential customers pay about 12 cents per kilowatt hour, and our commercial customers pay about 2 or 3 cents per kilowatt hour, but have huge infrastructure fees that make that very, very expensive. Meaning that if you are trying to convince a commercial customer to put a multi-million-dollar solar array on their roof, and they only realize a 2 to 3 cent per kilowatt hour savings, it's not very appealing. The math just doesn't work, and there's fewer and fewer renewable energy credits available, and you've got to make a business case for these folks who own businesses and are trying to explain things to their shareholders and their companies that this is a good solution for their business long term, besides the environmental solution, because they have shareholders that they have to report to. That said, I've had some really exciting conversations with people down at City Hall, and the optimum time to put a solar array on a commercial roof is when you've got a new roof, or you're going to be replacing a roof, because that's going to give you another 25 years. You don't want to be putting one of these systems on a roof that's got 5 years left. So I think as people are coming in for permits, or if we've got a list of our licensed roofing contractors, which we license here in Naperville, we could really communicate all the potential that these customers have and try to get them online with these solar systems down the way. And there's rebates available that are not being used by IMEA to support these projects.
Thank you. Candidate White.
Thank you. I don't have the business that you have over here, Scott, but I can tell you one way we can do this, where it all needs to really start, is with us at the city. What do our city buildings actually look like? I know we can do more and do better in that particular area. We actually do have some solar on the roof of the municipal center. If you are familiar with JC's Park, which is right outside of the municipal center, that one of the things that we wanted to do there was to build, put electricity out there for the park so people can have IT support. They have Wi-Fi out there as well, and it's all being powered, quite frankly, by the solar that we have up on the roof. There's other public buildings that we have in the community. I would ask for us to strive to try to make that happen as well. I understand there's a cost piece to that, but that's something that we definitely can do. We've actually taken part of our fleet, and it is electric. You can see them as you go through the garage, and you'll see them plugged in. Unfortunately, they're doing it with level 1 chargers, which is very, very slow if you're charging. They need at least level 2. Ask the city manager, we have our own electric department, right? I think we could probably make that happen. So I would encourage us to continue to do that. It's a little bit easier. It's definitely easier for some of our residents to get solar on their homes. Much tougher for the businesses, as you just heard. But we're not even close to getting the number of RECs that we can have here, even as residents. I think we're authorized 2% from IMEA. We're not even close to that. And if we even get to 2%, we can always go back and request to have more. And as you are replacing your roof, I got hit with that big storm a couple of years ago. Replaced my roof, and I would think maybe a month after I did it, I just went, why did I not put solar on? I had an opportunity to do it. And USAA is my insurance company. They would have done a heck of a job in making sure that happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate White. How do you feel about less mowed lawns and more sustainable nature prairie plants for wildlife conservation? Candidate White.
I think it's a great idea because when you bring in prairie plants, those are plants, and especially those that can pollinate, which would attract the right insects, and bees, whatever, come in. And anytime we get them to do that, I think it's good for the environment. So I would be in favor of that. I know there's a few places, quite frankly, not only do they not just have lawns, but they have artificial grass there, like a football field or something like that. We can do better than that. I know it's a little more maintenance to maintain those, but it's better for our environment. It provides the oxygen that our trees and live plants have for us. So I think those are good initiatives for us to do. But I think having the prairie plants, and if you ever go on the Prairie Pass, I used to work at Wheaton College, which actually brought me here to Naperville. But my cadets would be out there running along the Prairie Path, and you'd see all the great plants and stuff. If you get down to Springbrook, you see the same thing. So I think having those in some of our lawns, and when an opportunity presents itself, I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Worley.
Now, for a long time, DuPage County's had best management practices for stormwater and the ability to use sustainable nature plants in some of our stormwater retention areas. And as I've seen it implemented in development around town, it actually is very, very attractive. It presents a very different thing to look at. It's a lot more pleasant to look out and see birds and animals and things doing their things. Besides somebody out there with a lawnmower trying to mow a lawn and all the noise that goes along with it. So from a commercial application, it's been very good. I think the adaptation in the residential sector is somewhat new. I know there's people who do it. I've been on some of the tours throughout the community when they had them that actually are people showing off their sustainable prairie plants in their yards, and it's pretty cool. So I think it's exciting stuff. It's just a matter of educating folks about what it takes to implement those things and maintain them, and what the benefits to them are in the process of doing so. So I've got to open mind all that stuff. But I definitely like it in the commercial application. I think it's really great.
Thank you. This is the last of our audience questions. The candidates agree on what some of the priorities are, but how would you differentiate yourself from your opponent? Candidate Worley?
I've got a unique background, and I've been a business owner in town for a long time. Ironically, my business has been that of doing sustainable and resilient construction for buildings and structures all around the Midwest. So we've been on the cutting edge. We've copied and pasted a lot of stuff from our friends in Europe who have been building that way for long before us. They're about 10 years ahead in some of their building technologies as far as the sustainable efforts. And I have that experience in doing this stuff simply because that's just my job. When it comes to the environmental issues here in Naperville, I think I've got a lot of practical experience from trying things that have been successful and some things not so much. And when I have those conversations with people who call me and say, hey, Scott, how about this or how about that? I can say, oh, well, we tried that over at Mercer Howard. We did that geothermal system there, and here's what it did, and here's what didn't work. And yes, we did it, and it's successful now, but there was a learning curve along the way. Or we put up the solar array on the top of the Res Rec building where I'm on the board over at North Central, and we put battery technology up there, and that probably wasn't a good investment at that time because it was too early, and it wasn't right for that application, in my opinion, at that particular moment in life. So I have that unique perspective of doing all these projects, and I can talk the talk. I'm very comfortable in that. And I'm not afraid to say when I've had some hard lessons and things that didn't work so well, but we at least tried.
Thank you. Candidate White?
Yeah, for me, I would tell you, for me, it's about leadership. That's been my career. I'm a 22-year retired Army officer. I'm a West Point graduate, and this, for me, it comes down to leadership. I've been elected 3 times in this community after serving my country. Now I'm serving my community. I've been on the Board of Education in 2004, where we had to make decisions similar to what we're talking about here when it comes to saving the district money by making sure that we're more energy efficient. I've also been elected to the City Council for the last 6 years, where again we've been doing the exact same thing, trying to be efficient with our finances and so on. We've been doing the hard work. I've been doing the hard work, and I do it on a values-based approach, and that's what you're going to get with me are my values. In fact, I went on to study values-driven leadership and have my doctorate in that. That's how much I really appreciate being a leader. I'm always honing my leadership skills. So the key, like I said before, is you surround yourself with good people. You got to pick the right people. You have to hire the right people. Then you have to lead them. And as the leader, you've got to point them to the right direction. Make sure we're all on the same sheet of music when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish from a goal standpoint, and we get there. That's how we make it happen. I listen to people. I have a participative style of leadership that allows people to have a stake in what we're doing, and that's what you'll get from me.
Thank you, candidates. On to the lightning round. Question 1. We'll start with you, candidate White. Would you support setting goals for greenhouse gas reduction?
Yes.
Candidate Worley.
Yes.
Candidate Worley, would you support expanding recycling to multifamily dwellings and commercial properties?
Yes.
Candidate White.
Yes.
Candidate White, do you support adding a parking deck at Nichols Library?
Who would answer? I don't have a yes, no for that, because I need to see the analysis. We've got to do some work as far as looking at our driving habits to determine if the demand is there for it. So if the demand is there, and it makes sense, then I would support that. If not, then I probably would not.
That's not a yes, no.
I know. That's the best you're going to get from me on that one. Sorry.
Candidate Worley.
You're not going to get a yes, no from me on that one either. There's an older study and there's an older plan, and I've looked at it, and I'm not necessarily comfortable with the way I interpret it right now. My company is actually in the business of building parking garages, and I look at the layout, and I don't necessarily think it's that efficient the way it's currently laid out. So I would say that there's more to come, and we've got to listen and see what the most current data is telling us, as well as what our consultants are going to tell us on this.
All right, back to the yes, no's. Candidate Worley. Should Naperville actively encourage solar adoption and seek partnerships with commercial property owners to foster solar?
Absolutely.
Candidate White.
That wasn't a yes, no, you just said absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Candidate White, would you support a Naperville hiring a sustainability director? Let me repeat that. Would you support Naperville hiring a sustainability director?
Well, we basically have that. I guess maybe a manager, but someone's in place. Ben's in there right now, and they're doing great work. So if we're talking about a director or executive director, I'm not sure if the rank of that individual is what the purpose of the question is, but we have a person in place right now.
Thank you. Candidate Worley.
Yeah, and I would have to delineate between the existing roles and what the role of director would be versus what the current role of manager and the assistant is. So I don't have the answer to that question, but I would want to make sure we're not replicating the existing position.
Candidate Worley, would you support incentivizing businesses to install electric vehicle charging stations? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think there's already incentives out there for them, so yes.
Candidate White.
Yes.
Thank you, Candidate White. Candidate White, should Naperville take action to oppose carbon capture and sequestration at Prairie State Energy Campus, where we have park ownership? You need to repeat that?
Yeah, is it back there?
Indeed it is.
Want us to capture.
Would you like to take the CO2 that's coming out of the stack and shove it into the ground to keep it there forever? No?
I'm not exactly sure what who asked the question? So is that an audience question?
No, that was a pre-planned lightning round.
There's emerging proposals to take our Prairie State power plant, our coal power plant, which you very well understand, capture the carbon at the smokestack, that's at a fairly high cost, and then do something with it, put it in the ground, or potentially use it for maybe enhanced oil recovery and other, other areas. And that would be part of a future plan potentially to extend the life of our Prairie State coal operation that we are part of. So that's it.
Okay. Without knowing any more than what you basically told me there, I almost feel a little, but that definitely sounds like the right thing to do based off of what you said there. So, yes.
Candidate Worley?
I think we've got to negotiate from a position of significance, right? And we are one of the largest owner of that particular IMEA program, and we've got to have all of our options on the table and not necessarily make decisions without knowing all of the options. So I'm going to say I'm not answering yes or no to that because I don't know all of the options that are out there, and we've got to listen to all of those options before we make any decisions.
Thank you. Candidate Worley? Should Naperville set timelines and goals for adoption of electric vehicles for its city government fleet?
That is it's a tough one simply because our government fleet has got a significant number of emergency response vehicles that, from an electric vehicle perspective, and as an owner of an electric vehicle, I don't think I want the electric ambulance coming for my heart attack. We've got to be very conscious of the limitations of electric vehicles today, and for certain vehicles, I think it's fine, and I would certainly look at portions of the fleet being converted, but when it comes to the emergency vehicles, there's still work that has to be done there. So I would be reliant on more reliability and testing before we would go with our first responder vehicles.
Thank you. Candidate Wade?
Yeah, I would tell you that it's not a simple yes, no. I think that should be the goal, is to gradually get there, but that's going to come along with what the technology is as it progresses as well. So, for example, most of the electric cars, the really good ones are probably, you might get close to 400 miles on a charge. I know technology is coming out now where you can get up about 800 miles off of a charge. Once we get to that level of technology, then we can start going to the next phase. If you're looking at a particular fire truck with a tower and a ladder and all that, that truck by itself costs, with everything on it, it's about $1.3 million. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Kind of like those radios I talked about, right? But that's such an important vehicle that needs to be able to function when it gets to its destination to provide service to whoever they need at that particular time. So we need to ensure that the technology matches with what the demand and the capabilities of these emergency vehicles are. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate White, like yes or no? Naperville has seen significant flooding in recent years. Would you support using a portion of Naperville's $13.3 billion ARPA funds to address flooding?
I think that would be a great use for it. Of course, there's other things out there, but I think that would be a great use for it. So if you want a yes, no, I'll give you a yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Candidate Worley. Candidate Worley, would you consider walkability and bikeability as a priority for the city?
Yes.
Candidate White.
Yes.
Final question, gentlemen. Candidate White, do you feel that Naperville city government should improve its communication and outreach programs concerning environmental sustainability? Yes or no?
Yes.
Candidate Worley.
Absolutely yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you.